Throughout the entirety of the Biden administration, Republicans cried weaponization of government because Donald Trump was rightfully convicted of crimes that he committed. And now that Donald Trump is president, all those people so concerned with weaponization don't really care about Kash Patel's enemies list or Donald Trump wanting to go after his political opponents or the latest example of how unhinged this dictator Donald is, threatening to deport AOC. Yes, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she is calling out how absurd and immoral and really just broken his immigration policy is. And we are going to get into all of that and the response from AOC. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, I think it was a couple of things that AOC said, certainly about immigration, but also about how dysfunctional Donald Trump's government is that got him and his stooges so upset. So before we get into AOC and Trump's response, I want to check out two clips that got him so upset.
Oh man, I look terrible today.
No, come on. All good. There's some concern about going too hard on the CR from Democrats because of the looming shutdown. Do you think how do you think the party should approach this, given no major votes, but obviously a shutdown looms?
We should be very clear with the American people that the House is governed by a Republican majority, the Senate is governed by a Republican majority, and the White House has a Republican president. And if they want to pass their agenda, Republicans need to conjure up the votes for them to pass their own bills. And when it comes to government funding, it is the majority party's responsibility to ensure that the government is funded. They have been elected to run the government. They need to do that. And if they think that they're going to rely on Democrats to give them the votes while Elon Musk and Donald Trump are tearing up the very foundations of the federal government and abolishing the Department of Education, if they think that they're going to do that with a Democratic vote, I've got a bridge to sell them. We've got a whole bunch of other things to make sure that they tend to. So I think that message should be made very clear. And should the government shut down, it will be because of a failed Republican majority that does not deserve the power that they have.
What should you guys demand specifically?
I mean, I think when it comes to the specific demands in those negotiations, that's why we have our party leadership to determine what is strategically best. But one thing I will say is that it should not come cheap whatsoever. There should be really deep, large, systemic demands if we even come to the table, given the amount of tearing up that they're doing over there. Because frankly, unless you're a descendant of slaves, or if you're indigenous, or a descendant of indigenous people, we are in this. We are all descendants of immigrants. And them's just the facts. And there's all these people that talk about coming here the right way. The Trump administration shut down the CBP1 app. They shut down the doors for people trying to, quote unquote, come here the right way. And so the whole reason we have a one of the big reasons we have a quote unquote, border problem is because we shut all the doors. And so when you shut all the doors, when you don't create a path to citizenship, when you make it impossible to be documented, people are going to be undocumented. And so the solution to this problem, when we have so many American businesses saying that they need workforces, when in fact sometimes a lot of the reasons why some things are expensive is because we don't have people working and able to produce these things, is to actually, you know what, maybe a lot of these towns that have been really vacated and are empty, maybe they need people in them.
I wanted to play both of those clips, not only of AOC talking about the government shutdown, but also the clip from the Instagram Live we covered a few days back, because I think they're both equally important, pointing out why Donald Trump and his stooges, as we'll see, are so upset with AOC. On the government shutdown, it's ridiculous that reporters continued to ask Democrats about this looming shutdown like we have anything to do with it, like AOC is the one in the majority, not Republicans. Why do we have to bail them out? Why is that the idea that everyone has, that that's how government works? Republicans can screw things up as much as they want, and Democrats bail them out without getting any credit. It's a ridiculous notion. But on what AOC had to say about the immigration policy of Donald Trump, I completely agree. It's not that it's overwhelmingly popular. It's not. People do not want their communities ripped apart. It is impractical to spend the billions of dollars it will cost for Donald Trump's mass deportation plan and the potentially trillions of dollars of damage it will do to our economy. People do not want this. It is unpopular. It is immoral. It is wrong. And in so many cases, it's illegal. Donald Trump's stooges and the local law enforcement carrying out this plan have detained American citizens, veterans, because they're racially profiling them. And it's the reason why AOC has now started holding webinars advising people in her congressional district on their rights. And it's what triggered Trump and his stooge, Tom Homan, to be so angry. And you can see that in this clip right here.
But, Tom, you got AOC out there, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman, putting out a webinar, doing a webinar to help illegals avoid, I guess, apprehension, giving tips about how to continue to remain in the country and ultimately game the system.
And I sent an email today to the Deputy Attorney General. At what level is that impediment? Is that impediment? I'm not an attorney. I'm not a prosecutor. Is that impediment? Is that impeding our law enforcement efforts? If so, what are we going to do about it? Is she crossing the line? So I'm working with the Department of Justice and finding out where is that line that they cross. So maybe AOC is going to be in trouble now, but I need the AOG to opine on that. But because impediment is impediment, in my opinion. I'm not a prosecutor, but we need some further guidance on that.
So we are now threatening members of Congress, saying that we're going to look into them. They're starting to investigate AOC for this, by the way. Again, like I said, weaponization of government, folks. Not too upset about that for some reason. I wonder why. I wonder what's different this time. But saying that they're going to deport her, which is now the call being made by Laura Trump and other members of the Trump administration, deport AOC. Like, think about that. That is what they're saying for advising people on the rights they have when approached by these ICE agents or local law enforcement. It is entirely absurd. It is ridiculous. And it's the type of intimidation that Donald Trump wants to bring to his presidency. It's what it's really all about. He's operating like a mob boss. But AOC will not be intimidated, so she clapped back. And I want to take a look at what she had to say right here. AOC says Trump's border czar should learn to read after she becomes latest Democrat to be threatened by him. Representative AOC fired back at President Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, after he suggested she would be in trouble for hosting a webinar explaining migrants' rights in the U.S. Ocasio-Cortez shared a clip of Homan's remarks on Blue Sky Thursday with a caption mocking his words. Maybe she's going to be in trouble now, she mocked Homan's threats in a post on X. Maybe he can learn to read, she added. The Constitution would be a good place to start. As Homan threatens lawmakers, his agency appears to be falling behind on the Trump administration's promise to execute the largest deportation operation in U.S. history. ICE agents have arrested some 21,000 people in November under former President Joe Biden, while the agency has only arrested some 14,000 people in Donald Trump's more than 4 weeks in office, Axios reports. I certainly think that the failures of Donald Trump's mass deportation plan, which is great, I've mocked it a little bit in the past that this plan is kind of falling apart. It's not working as much as Donald Trump wanted. It's not hitting its goals. But I'm glad. I do not want to see this plan successfully carried out. Why would I? It is insane. And it is so insane that it's not working. And I think that's a big reason why Tom Homan is lashing out, why Donald Trump is talking about, shipping off criminals to other countries, like shipping off American citizens to other countries, is because they're just so shaken by this that they, put into place this horrible, inhumane law in the Lincoln-Riley Act, and it's not even helping them accomplish their ends. And it is really scary to see what this is kind of all about at this point. It's almost not even about the mass deportation as much as it is creating tools for intimidation for Donald Trump, to keep people scared, to try to keep them in check, to break up these communities. We see them going into churches, elementary schools, daycares, terrifying thoughts. And it's the reason AOC had such a great call out of this horrible act, Lincoln-Riley Act right here.
If someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. Without being found guilty of a crime, they will be rounded up. That is what is inside this bill, a fundamental suspension of a core American value. And that is why I rise to oppose it. If you're a dreamer, all someone has to do is point a finger and you will be rounded up. And we have seen moments like these happen before. In the Patriot Act, in the wake of the travesty of 9/11, a fundamental suspension of American civil liberties. That is what we are seeing here today. Mr. Speaker, you may wonder why so many of our friends across the aisle who care so deeply about the rule of law happen to be so desperate to pass this bill, after they are unleashing people who attacked police officers here on this Capitol into roaming our streets, who are publicly saying now they want to get a gun. Suddenly, these folks care about public safety? I don't think so. Look no further than the price tag of this bill, $83 billion. They know that it can't be paid for. They know that the capacity is not there. And you know what will be there? Private prison companies are going to get flooded with money, who give this money, no doubt. I want folks at home to look. Look at what members of Congress are invested in private prison companies who receive this kind of money, and look at the votes on this bill. It is atrocious that people are lining their pockets with private prison profits in the name of a horrific tragedy and the victim of a crime.
Donald Trump wants to be operating like a mob boss. He wants to be operating out of a place of intimidation. He wants to be making people afraid. It's the only way all of what he does works. It's the only way he can try to enforce this strength that he knows is fleeting from him. It's the reason why we saw Donald Trump just a couple of days ago say, no, J.D. Vance is not my successor. It's the reason Donald Trump is floating a third term. Donald Trump is a lame duck president. He knows his power is wavering. He loses more and more of it every single day. His Republican Congress is inept and incompetent and can't get anything done. They might shut down the government because even as a majority, they're so stupid. He knows that he needs to try to intimidate people and actually weaponize the government to try to get anything done, or to try to maintain this position of power he has to operate from over all of the Republican Party to keep his shtick moving, or it all falls apart. And so that's why it is so important we continue to poke and prod and call him out and always push back, because it's just chipping away. It's all going to break apart at some point, and when it does, it'll be beautiful. And until that, we're going to be calling it out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.